Welcome your faces back to episode number 57 of the series Profit or Loss. I buy faulty electronic items usually from eBay, attempt to fix them and sell them for a profit. Hopefully. Today I swam out a little bit of my comfort zone. I have an item that I'm not really too hopeful for, but if we do manage to fix it, it should turn out to be quite a nice profit, and if not, nonetheless a great learning experience. We're now looking a little bit more iffy than what we did in the last few weeks, but we're still boasting a total profit of £250.30. I know I mentioned last video as well that I made some upgrades. I've made some more little upgrades and I thought it would be good to share it with you guys. I purchased a box of micro USB ports, which I think is pretty cool. This will help out for any like tablets or anything that we may get into in the future, as well as a box of USB-C ports as well, just random ones. Always nice to have something like that on the side just in case I do eventually need them, as well as a bunch of resistor and capacitor sample books. So we have 0201 resistor, 0402 resistor, and 0603 resistor books. And if I open it up, you can just see that there's rows and rows and rows of different values of resistors. And it's exactly the same with the caps. Same sort of thing, same sizes. Just again, another really good thing to have in the inventory in case for whatever reason I need them. Enough jibber jabber, let's find out how much I actually paid for this thing. I paid a grand total of £130 for today's faulty item. You probably guessed from the box itself, but we do indeed have a channel first, and it's a gaming laptop. As you can see, originally listed for 180, but we managed to get it for 130. Specs, it says it's an i7 8th gen. It's got a GTX 1050 Ti with 8 gig of RAM. It does state that it doesn't contain an SSD or a Wi-Fi card, but the issue is that the laptop itself, as confirmed by the seller, does not power on and no lights are visible when attempting to start up the laptop. So it's going to be an interesting one. I don't usually repair laptops. My knowledge in them is very, very limited. I can just about take them apart and put them back together. Even that can be a struggle. So I think it's going to be an interesting video. Before we get started, a huge shout out to today's sponsor, PCBWay. PCBWay is the solution for all your PCB needs. Imagine this scenario. You're in dire need of a reliable service to print some custom circuit boards. Those boards need to be great quality, have fast shipping and be at a very good price. PCBWay have you sorted. Simply start your instant quote and customize your PCB to how you want it. Anything from thickness to solder mask color. And then in a few simple steps, you'll be ready to check out. PCBWay also offers services such as CNC machining, 3D printing, injection molding, and sheet metal fabrication. Why not check out the gift store where you can buy preheaters, soldering irons, multimeters, and much, much more. Head on over to PCBWay.com to get started. Let's get this opened up, shall we? Alrighty. Laptop. Power brick. Anything else? No. Keep the box. If we do manage to get it working, we can sell it in that. It's good condition. Charger itself is 120 watts. Like they stated, the screws, this is exactly how I've taken it out of the box, by the way. So these have been removed where the screws are hidden. So somebody's been in here and removed the SSD and the Wi-Fi card. Condition-wise of the actual laptop itself isn't too bad. There's a few scuff marks on it, some dirt marks over here, but all in all, it's not horrendous. Maybe a little dent. Was that here? Yeah, maybe a tiny, tiny dent. Let's open it up and see how it looks. We seem to have a mark on the screen. If I put it in the light, can you see? There seems to be a mark there, but I don't know if that's just a little bit of dust or something. Can we get rid of that mark? Doesn't look like it, because that doesn't seem to be disappearing. So that's quite a, that sucks, basically. My pricing is well off, by the way, so I don't know if, you know, £130 is good or not for the laptop that I've purchased. But I mean, looking at that mark on the screen, it's not a good start, let's put it that way. Condition-wise, the keyboard, yeah, looks all right. Trackpad also looks okay. Everything feels all right. It doesn't seem too bad. Now, again, I don't have much experience with these. I don't know. Obviously, this is the hinge, but I don't know if there's meant to be like a cover here to cover up this hinge. And exactly the same story over here, you know. I don't know if there's a cover meant to slot over. First things first, we're going to plug in the power brick and just make sure that we are getting 19.5 volts coming out this end. It does also have a USB-C port here, but sometimes they can just be for data rather than charging. We have the charger, ground on the outside, positive on the inside. What do we measure? It's coming up with something, it's just loaded. There we go. 19.4 volts, which is absolutely fine. Let's plug the charger into the laptop, just here. Do we get any lights? Nothing, which is exactly what the seller confirmed. No lights or anything. Okay, kind of good. This is good. What I am going to do is measure the charger again and see if it's gone into protection mode because of a short. So again, let's measure. Did it go into protection mode and is it still outputting? So it looks like it's going to be outputting something. There we go, 19.5. Okay, so the charger's not going into protection mode. If the charger goes into protection mode, what it means is that there's a short on the board and it's going, nope, I don't want any part of it. So actually it can be quite a good sign. The fact that the charger's not going into protection mode, I don't know if that's better or worse. Now, this should be fairly straightforward to take apart. these laptops, I think. Again, could be completely wrong, but what I am going to use is my white tack here and just lay it out exactly how it is here. And I'm wondering actually if they've left these like this because there's no screws under here. And there's only screws in the top ones. Now we just have screws down the bottom as well. This one is definitely threaded. If we now just grab our I-System, I don't think we're going to need that, to be honest, because it has been opened before and we can see the dents and stuff in the side, so it should just pull up. Whoa! Alright, sweet. Now I'm sure the listing said that it doesn't have the Wi-Fi card, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure that's the Wi-Fi card. So I think we're absolutely balling, to be honest. Here we have the RAM. Is this just a singular stick of 8 gig? Yes, it is, 8 gig. So we can actually up this to 16 quite easily just by placing another stick of RAM here. First off, let's disconnect the battery. Now I'm going to plug in the charger and see if we get something different. Do we get a light now? No, we don't. So that's with the battery unplugged. I'm just having a brief visual inspection on the board to see if I can see any signs of bad or blown components. And here is where we would have the SSD, the NVMe SSD. And they've taken the screw. Would you look at that? Because that's where the screw would go for the NVMe. All right, after some visual inspection, it doesn't look like there is anything wrong with the board. So if I just plug in the charger on the left here, and then we've got our DC voltage, and it goes from here, down here, on this cable all the way to here. I'm just going to double check and make sure that we get 19 volts coming into the board. So is that present? Looks like it, doesn't it? Because it's loading. There we go. So 19.8 volts. So we get 19.8 volts into the board. Now we just need to try to our best ability to follow that circuit and see if we can locate any shorts anywhere. So we still get 19 volts here. Do we get anything on this coil over here out of interest? No, we don't. We get nothing. What about this coil here? Anything. Any voltage whatsoever. Nada. So we're going to have the GPU CPU combo here, assuming that's CPU. And that's where the GPU is. Again, just guesses. So what I would say is that we have absolute zero over here. So we have 0 voltage over here next to whereby the CPU actually is. So I'm hoping it's just not a dead CPU, because that wouldn't be great. Let's measure on this cap that we have. Something's loading. Okay, so we have 19 volts on this cap here. Let's zoom in a little bit just around this area on our microscope to see if we can notice anything. All right, so I believe this is the area I was measuring. So for example, on this cap here, that's where we had the 20, I think. Yeah, so we got the 20 volts there, 19.5 volts there. So we have the positive there. These look like important MOSFETs is what I would say. And if I measure on this side of the coil, so I get nothing there and I get nothing here. So I'm assuming, is that a short to ground? Let's just break this little bit of factory flux that we have just to make sure. Do we have anything? No, it's definitely nothing. So no current at all going through here. And I would assume, which is important. So if I have voltage here at 20 volts, let's measure on this, like these caps around here. Do we have anything here? Doesn't look it. So I've got nothing there. Do we have something here? Because that could be ground. So I've got 4.8 volts here. What about here? I've got 5 volts here, which looks to be going into this MOSFET. And then if I measure here, I get nothing coming out of the MOSFET. Let's measure on this cap. So we have 5 volts on this cap here. So we have a 5 volt rail. On this 0 ohm resistor by the looks of it. So again, we've got 5 volts. And then if I measure the side of where the coils are, I get nothing. So if I now go ahead and measure this side of the coils, which is again right next to where we have the CPU, assuming CPU, if I just measure around here for any sort of voltage, I get nothing, right? Yeah, I mean these are dead shorts to ground as far as I'm concerned, because they are zeroing out the meter completely. So again here, absolutely nothing. Okay, again, I could be angering a lot of people here because I don't really know what it is I'm looking for, but it's all practice. It's all practice. As part of a guessing game, I mean, it looks like... Now, this laptop could have obviously just had like a some Thresh thermal paste and a bit of a clean out on the inside, but it's definitely been opened before because that screw is not a factory screw. Hi, editing Joey here. When I say this isn't a factory screw, it is a factory screw, but what I mean is that somebody has been inside and removed it before. Sorry. So we can definitely tell somebody who's been inside this laptop. Not to say that it's definitely going to be, you know, CPU related, but my head instantly goes to when buying off eBay, when you see something that's been opened before and then they've just listed it on eBay, it's probably going to be quite a serious fault and a tech has previously looked at it. I would just like to confirm that this is what looks to be a short to ground by having our meter in continuity mode. So we get a beep when we have a complete circuit. Put in one probe on ground. That's a ground side on the cap. Okay, that's coming up as 4 ohms. What do we have here? 4 ohms? 4 ohms. Okay, so 4 ohms isn't actually too bad considering that we're right next to the CPU in that case, in my opinion. So actually, if we stick this in diode mode and put it, say, for example, on here, we're going to get a very low reading. Yeah, 0.0027 19, but doesn't mean that it's a short to ground. So we get around about 4 ohms here, which might actually be acceptable considering it's right next to the CPU. What I'm going to do to get a little bit more comfortable with the board is take it out of the chassis and inspect the back of it to see if, again, I've got any burn marks or anything along those lines. All right, so board is now out the chassis, and I'm just taking a look around to see. This is the other side of the board, by the way, that I didn't have access to. Just having a quick visual inspection to see if there's any blown components or any marks on the board to indicate that we might have a fault somewhere, but it is looking relatively clean. Here we have what looks to be that looks like the retimer for the Xbox One S, which is really interesting. So 75DP159, exactly the same chip, because over here we have the HDMI circuit. That's interesting to know. My first thought is maybe somebody plugged the USB-C cable in to charge this, and it's done something to the circuit. That's where my head goes. So if I just start prodding around, I guess, in this sort of area, in the vicinity, I wonder if I get anything. No, I'm just measuring on some caps here. Oh, wait a minute. We have a short to ground here. And that's not planned, by the way, I promise. Okay, so I have a short here. Does that mean this is short? Yeah, so this coil, we have a short on this coil. Right, let's go into resistance mode real quick just to confirm that it's a short to ground. We just put that here. Yeah, so that is 0.8 of an ohm. And this side, 0.8 of an ohm. Now, if I actually ground my leads, I get 0.8. So that is okay. So we have a short to ground on these caps here. What's this? Where does this go? So what side? I'm going to guess and say that this side is meant to be positive, and this is meant to be ground. That could obviously be incorrect. Let's measure here as well. So here. Okay, open line. So maybe. So yeah, that side is ground. And then am I right in thinking that that connects to that? Potentially, but this side is also ground, so it's going to be hard to tell. I'm assuming this, yeah, the side with the coil is probably going to be where we're not meant to have ground. And where is that? So this is where the SSD goes. So this is where the NVMe drive goes. Do I have a short on this coil? No, no short on this coil. So it's this one here. How lucky is that I've just managed to find that? But I think it's definitely worth a shot at some voltage injection, just at 0.5 volt, to see what's going on here. With 0.5 volt, I get 800 milliamp draw on this side. On this side, it's 1.5 amps, which again, I'm assuming is ground. But if I go this side, yes, 800 milliamps. Now it's 500. So it's 500 milliamps. I wonder if that's going to be enough to show us something. So now if I go to inject on this coil, which is, as you can see on my lead here, does anything get hot? That's strange. Now I'm only getting 30 milliamps. I'm only getting 30 milliamps now. Okay, I had to turn off the power supply and back on. That's reflection. We're at 400 milliamps. Can't really see anything getting hot. What about over this side? That's just a reflection as well, I'm sure. Yeah. Just checking on the underside of the board as well. I'm still pulling, so I'm 600 milliamps now. Nothing other than reflections, just getting hot. So nothing on the back side of the board either. All right, so I've now put it up to 1 volt to see if anything else. Okay, I'm getting 3 amps. Getting 3 amps worth of current. Oh, wow. And that's right on. What is that? That's the chipset. Oh, no. Anywhere else? Oh, we have an area over here as well, 28 degrees. And there is nothing on the board. Let me turn it around. Okay, so we have this little component here. All right, let's zoom in on that a bit. 36 degrees. Okay, let's have a look. On the thermal cam, the component getting hot seems to be this little 0 ohm resistor. So meet it in continuity mode just to make sure we have a continuous path. We do. And the resistance is nothing. So it's still good. So does that mean then the only other area of the board getting hot was the chipset just where this thermal paste is, just here. So does that mean that our CPU is in fact shot? And has somebody already taken a look at this and then just hitched it back on eBay as faulty? Was there a reason why they accepted 130 instead of the 180, which is 50 quid less than what they were asking for? There is obviously a chance that they just didn't know. But considering that the heatsink had been taken off, so it could have just had a bit of a service and an MOT, but it's an interesting one. I'm just going to double check on the thermal cam and make sure that nothing else is getting hot, but that's where we have our short. And then when I inject, the chipset is getting hot. So it could very well be game over for this laptop, but I just want to confirm. So this is where I'm now at to confirm my diagnosis. We had a 0 ohm resistor here that was connecting the 2 paths. If I put the multimeter into resistance mode, we can see that this side is actually okay when it loads. So you can see it's around about 27 ohms or so. It's this path here that is our short to ground. Now with this little resistor removed, this is the area where we had the short previously. And if I measure on this coil, which I have since removed and put back on, you can see that we have 27 ohms. So the short is gone from these caps, which is where I was originally injecting. So when I inject a volt on this rail, the only thing that gets warm is the back of the chipset that we have here. I can't precisely nail it down to a certain capacitor because the whole area itself gets hot. So with that being said, I think we can call that GG/game over with this laptop. I'm going to take the option and resell it back on eBay with a full description as to what I've done with it and, in my opinion, what the actual issue was. For that reason, I'm actually going to wait until I sell it to update Sally's Spectacular Spreadsheet, because with something like this, it's going to be really difficult to tell. So the next section you see will actually be me after I've sold the item. Hey, it's been like a week and a half and I've not managed to sell it. So for the purpose of this video, I think the most accurate thing I can do is log it as a loss until I sell it. Otherwise, I can't go ahead and record the outro with Sally's Spectacular Spreadsheet with other videos because that space will be blank. Once I've sold it, I'll make an adjustment in a future video. On that note, heading over to Sally's Spectacular Spreadsheet, there's not really anything massive that we need to do here except type in minus £130. This now unfortunately puts our total profit at £120.30. As always, I hope you liked the video. This one was a little bit different in terms of the stuff that I fix. Hit the thumbs up if you did. Subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. I'll leave last week's video up here so you can tune into that if you'd like. Have a great week/weekend and I will see you in the next one. Peace.